512. It's not like a ridiculous Pokemon. There were too many. It was Pearl, but I did enjoy the anime as a kid, even the paints.
Hey everyone, it's Leanne. Welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. Today I am going to swatch some of these colors. I received this dot card for Christmas. This is Daniel Smith, and these are 66 watercolors. And so this dot card sample has a dab of paint of all the different colors that they provide. And so you can take your brush and you can wet them and then test them on a sample sheet. So what I've done is I've printed out a chart that I can swatch the colors onto. I printed this on Fabriano watercolor paper. I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the pad of Fabriano paper that I have. This is 100% cotton, and so this is something that I would typically use to paint on when I paint. So I want to have a really accurate representation of what the colors would look like for me. So I took this sheet and I cut it down, one of these sheets, to 8.5 by 11 so it would fit in my printer. And then I created this chart and printed out onto the paper using my printer. It printed pretty good. I'm really impressed with how it came out. And I'll make the chart available as well. If you guys want to download it and use it as well, I'll link it in the description below, and you can find that there. So I'm going to go ahead and swatch all these. I'm really excited to see what colors are in here. I've never used Daniel Smith paints before, but I know they're pretty popular. And I've always been wondering how they react. I've only ever used Core and Winsor & Newton. And I'm always looking for new paints to add to my palette. So let's take a look at all these paints. I'm so excited to swatch them out. So the instructions just say to wet your brush and apply your wet brush to one of the color dots, the watercolor dots, and then just put it to paper, any paper that you would use, and check it out. So this should be pretty easy. I'm assuming it's just like sampling a palette of colors. Now all of these colors have ratings and descriptions. They tell I believe, the series that they come from. And as my understanding with Daniel Smith is, it goes from series 1 to series 5. And I believe series 5 is the premium brand or premium level of paint, as where series 1 would be more like a student grade, I believe, if I'm understanding that correctly. It also talks about if it's transparent, semi-opaque, or opaque, and if it's light, fast, non-staining, all that stuff. That's all listed here. So what I did with my chart is I put down all of the names that matched from the card, and so I could do those one-to-one with what I have here. And I also put a black line so that I can see how opaque or transparent each sample is. So that's what that black line is for. The first set of colors that I'm going to do are the primatech colors, and so it says on the chart that these are unique colors made with authentic mineral pigments. So they should be really neat to see. Next, we'll take a look at the quinacridones. Now I'm going to swatch out the luminescent colors. I'm quite surprised how light these are. They definitely say that they're 100% transparent, but they're very, very light. And I don't know if that might be because I'm having trouble activating the colors, because here on the board they look pretty solid, even though it's a paint dab, and I realize that. I was just expecting more color, more pigment out of these than I'm seeing. This one's so interesting because it looks green on the paper and it comes out brown when it's thin. So there's the full look at all of the dots swatched out onto this Fabriano paper, this 100% cotton watercolor paper. I had a hard time with the primatech colors. I felt they were more earth tones, and as earth tones are beautiful, but I'm more of a bright saturated hue kind of person. I prefer brighter colors. I found that these were harder to activate too. Maybe it was just because they're more earth tones. I found that they weren't as saturated as I would like, or as full of pigment. They were more on the lighter side, and they would be a beautiful light wash, but they're just, I don't know, I wasn't terribly excited about these ones. I really love the Quinacridones. Those were my favorite. I just love the intensity. I thought that the Cascade Green was really interesting because it had those two colors, that blue and that green. There's a lot of granulation going on here, so if you like granulating colors, this would definitely be a color that you'd probably be interested in. I thought the Quinacridone purple was really beautiful. When I laid it down, it was this bright, deep, rich color, and it had almost like a pink undertone, and it looked like a really warm, beautiful purple, and I loved it so much. I'm not as crazy about the granulation the way it dried. I'm more leaning towards the side of non-granulating colors lately, but I thought that the intensity was just beautiful when I put it down. It kind of, wasn't as happy with it as when it dried. It's still very beautiful though. The color of the pigment is just so pretty. I love the color for sure. And I also thought the Quinacridone Violet was really nice. It reminded me of Purple Lake, which is a color I used in my student grade Cotman Winsor & Newton watercolor set from the Cotman series, and I loved Purple Lake. It's just such a versatile color. And now I have a professional grade that I use in my core watercolors that is similar to that color. So I have a Quinacridone Violet that I use from core, and so you can see that here, and that's a favorite color of mine. I just love it so much. And I think I prefer the core. It's just a little bit more saturated, but I like the deep intensity of this Quinacridone Violet. To compare, here's the Quinacridone Purple. So I find that the one from core is like a little bit more on the cool side, and this one definitely has a warmth to it, almost like an undertone of this Quinacridone Violet in this purple. This violet is beautiful. I just love the color of it. I also was really impressed with the Quinacridone Red. I'm having a hard time finding a good red. Right now, this is my current palette, and I have Permanent Alizarin Crimson in here, and I'm not very happy with it. I find that it looks really great when it's wet, and as soon as it dries, it just loses its intensity. In comparison, this Quinacridone Red is really, really beautiful, and it looks like it's held up its pigment really well and its color intensity after it's dried. I'm really happy with how that's looking. I'm always a fan of the golds, this Quinacridone Gold. I love the way that Quinacridone Gold starts in a dark, deep color, and then it just turns into a different color as it gets thinned out, more of a yellow. It's so beautiful. It's so intense. I think it's so, so pretty. The luminescent colors were really interesting. They reminded me of my Finetech colors that I have. So I'll show you those for comparison. These are the pearlescent Finetech colors, and I like to use these as accent colors. And sometimes I do have a need when I'm doing, I have like a gold silver set here. So these all have just kind of like a glittery base to them, and they're really pretty. These ones were more of a wash and less of an opaque pigment or an opaque color. So these really do have tints to them, but they're really hard to see. I think it was probably easier to see when it was wet and it was reflecting. When it was wet in the light, you can kind of see on the dark black line the way the colors are, the difference between them. But to look at them just on the white paper, it's very hard to tell the difference in colors. In fact, the camera's picking it up probably better than the naked eye that I'm seeing just looking at it directly. but I can really see the color shift when I look at the black line and the color over top. You can really see the pigment or the tones there. Just the different colors. I think these would probably be really nice over top of colors as like just a decoration wash, or just to add a little bit of interest and highlights to certain areas without adding a solid pigment. I think they're really pretty. They could be really beautiful with some water, if you're painting like some water scenes perhaps, with the blues and the greens. And I do love the pearlescent shimmer. It's almost like an opaque glitter that you could probably apply to any color and give it a glittery shine. It reminded me of the Wink of Stella brush pen. I thought that was really pretty. Going back to the primatech colors, I did want to point out a few that I did like. Overall, they're not my favorite. I'm not really crazy about earth tones and the lighter washes or that less saturated look, but I thought that the Jadeite Genuine is just really beautiful. The intensity is really rich, and I was really happy with how that color looked. I thought the Fuchsite, I think it's called Fuchsite Genuine, this kind of teal color was really pretty as well. I do have a teal color in my palette. It's not quite the same. I have Cobalt Turquoise Light, which is from Winsor & Newton. It's more on the blue side. I like to use that for kind of jewel tone ocean paintings as well, and any water in general. But I do like more of the green side of that. I think that's really pretty as well. A few of these colors do have a bit of that shimmer to them too, like the luminescent colors do. The red Fuchsite, I guess, the Kyanite, I think, and this Sugalite, this purpley color, as well as this teal color too. I just really like the glitter. I think that's really pretty. So this is a final view of the entire swatches put out. I will post a picture of this too, and I'll link it in the description below. So if you want to look at this chart, I'll take a picture and you can take a look at the colors. They won't be 100% exact because you can't replicate on screen, but I'll try to make it as close to real life as possible. And I had a lot of fun swatching these out. I was kind of shocked at some of the colors, how they came out. I was expecting a little bit more intensity with the primatech and the luminescent, I guess. I loved the Quinacridones, but I found it really interesting, and I think this chart will be really helpful to keep on hand so that if I do see some colors that I'm lacking and I want to grab, this is a really great reference to have. Do you use Daniel Smith watercolors? I'm wondering if you have a favorite, or if there's any colors here that you use and you really love, or maybe ones that I haven't seen and ones you would recommend. I'd really be curious to hear your thoughts. If you could leave a comment below, I'd love to check those out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you're notified as I post more videos to my channel. Thank you so much for watching.